Welcome everyone to this next interview series of the She Shakes the World interview series with me, Rachel Waite, and I am so delighted to introduce you to my very special guest today, Antonia Daniek. Wow, and I just want to say buckle up because before I know what's going to come out of our mouths, I want you to know that this is going to be one divinely led and deep conversation that if you're listening to this, I really feel like you need to be here listening to this. Antonia and I, when we get together, we have some very deep conversations. And
Always.
we we have set the intention that the people who need to hear this are going to receive the message that they need to receive today from listening to this. So, Antonia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Please let the listeners know first of all where you're dialing in from, and also just share with them who you are and what it is you currently do. That I know you shake the world in a beautiful way. How you go about doing that.
Well, I'm turning in from Germany. I'm south of Munich in a beautiful countryside, usually with mountain view. And I just recently started a new venture called Wisdom Wayfinder, which is all
Mhm.
about supporting people to tune into their intuition and then taking inspired action. And the whole goal that I see is if we all are in our own connected to our source, to our intuition, and we walk our unique path, then we can co-create in new ways. And to
Mm.
me, this is how we can shake off, like we can create our future by being uniquely us and at the same time co-creating in amazing ways. And I have a lot of different pathways. One is the source principles, which comes through everywhere in my work. And it's really, to me, source is a word that it's beyond two or three expressions. So it's I'm a voice for source, is what I say, and its source is Mother Earth, it's spirit, it's our intuition, it's the source of every venture. There's a source,
Mm.
and I feel that this weaves us all together because we are all part of this co-creation. And this
Beautiful.
is what I'm passionate about, and it runs through my life, through my history, like my history, my story, and through my work and
Yeah,
through my family. So
it's amazing. And
beautiful.
who do you work with when you're in your Wayfinder, in the Wayfinder program?
Well, it's several program, or it will be
Mm.
several programs, and one
Mm.
is really for the individual person. So it can be anyone who really wants to tune in and to um, maybe even take the pause, which we will
Mm.
probably
We're
speak
going to
again
go into that.
later.
Yes.
And then from this point of insight and inner knowing, stepping forward and taking inspired action. And the other one is really for people who are creating businesses, communities, or who want to do conscious co-creation. So the
Okay.
first program now is conscious co-creator, because I feel when we are conscious in what we're doing and how we're interacting with much more awareness, then so much more is possible, and then it's so much easier
Yes.
to do all this, because relations are can be can be quite tricky. So
Yes.
it's a way to make it easier and more powerful.
Okay. Okay. Antonio, we were just discussing earlier about what parts of your life, have the sort of where you've struggled and where you've had to sort of things that you've had to overcome and steps that you've had to take to get you where you are. And what is it that you feel has really helped you, when you've had difficult times or where you felt like you're having to process something, or that something different is on its way, that change is on its way, or you need to step into something different. It can be difficult for many of us to take that leap, to take that step, and it's very easy sometimes just to stay in that comfort zone of what we know. But if we are going to shape the world, if we are going to make a difference and move forwards, sometimes we have to do difficult things or make a change. And
Yeah.
what is it that you have done, and how have you navigated that?
Um, I feel like I have done this since childhood. I feel very fortunate to have had a very like conscious and aware childhood, I would say,
Mm,
because I even grew up in a Buddhist community. So I always made wishes to the best of all beings, and I always asked for support and for guidance.
yeah.
So one of my childhood prayers is, please, can I have whatever? And can you please send me signs and help me understand them and help support me in acting upon them, which I feel it's a very important piece.
Yes.
And then I always ended with and made develop to the best of all.
This is
So I
amazing.
always implied that even if it's maybe turns out a little bit uncomfortable for me, I always trusted that in the bigger picture, it's the best option, it's the best
Yes.
version of this interaction.
Yes.
And and then when I finished school and I started studying, I shifted my career very often. And
Mm.
I like in hindsight, it looks like it was courageous in that moment. I just did it. And I had the supportive surrounding.
Mm.
So after half year, I stopped graphic design and I worked in an agency and I went into business and then I learned how to be a Feng Shui consultant and then I did all my coaching educations and all the other, I don't know how many, it's so many things that I collected over the years, which lead to this knowledge ocean, I would
Yeah.
say, that is there, that is now embodied within me and which I can use when like whatever need pops up. But it took some severe decisions, which not everybody understood. Like, for example, I finished school, I had married, and I started working, and it looked very successful to the outside.
Oh, that yes, I so get this. Carry
That's
on,
the
sorry.
yes, and then I decided to divorce my
Mm.
husband, even though I still loved him. But there was so much within me that I didn't understand yet. We met when I was 16. So it
Mm-hmm.
was simply very early. And and then we had a divorce. And it was the first time that I could really feel into who am I and what am I passionate about. And the interesting thing is that a lot of things that we did together were actually the ones that I'm also passionate about when I'm alone or with someone else, because I was with someone else then.
Mm.
And I think after 3 years, I had this conversation between my head and my heart where my heart said, we need to call him once more. And my head said, you're crazy, you hurt him. And it took several months. And then I had this very strong intuition to call him now. And I called him. And a week before, he had separated from his girlfriend. So
Wow.
couldn't have called earlier.
Mm.
And um, and we were back together. And now we have 3 kids. We're still together. So we have our second marriage 20th anniversary this autumn.
Wow,
And
what a story. So you got married at a young age. You felt that you just somehow needed a break, a pause to,
yeah, I needed
right?
a pause, and I felt
Mm.
like the relationship had shifted to more like best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who I was. And then I was just like, somehow we both needed these 3 years.
Yeah, you had
And
three
what
years
I
apart. Wow. And then you came back
and what
together.
I yes. And now our youngest turns 19, like next week. Is like he's taller than me, his chin goes up here. Um, and the interesting thing was before I called him, I had quit my job, I had quit my flat because I felt before that I want to move.
Mm.
So I didn't even sacrifice this piece, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I feel it was like not coincidence, but it was so many pieces coming together. And then I was prepared to be back with him, but I was different and he was different.
Yeah.
And when I translate this to other people's lives, I feel it's like it's an extreme example. So
Yes,
we
I
don't
was
need
going to say,
like if I want to
yeah.
find myself, I don't need to divorce my husband or send my kids away. Um, for example, last year I took a break from my business, and I was still homeschooling my 3 kids, and I was still with my husband. So we can take the pauses, we can create space for pause even when everything continues, and we can also have this space to be with ourselves. For example, I love being in nature, and
Mm.
even I was on a conference last week, and one afternoon I took time for myself. Like they went somewhere and I just stepped out and I went on a mountain and I was in the storm and in the rain by myself, connecting with the elements, connecting with myself, checking in. And I feel there's so many versions of
Mm.
this pause. It can be journaling, it can be, there's so many ways that, or meditation, or like for everybody it's different. And to take time and space to figure out what kind of pauses nourish us, and or what nourishes you and what supports you and what gives you insights. For me it's often it's journaling, or it's when I'm in nature, even when I go for a city tour alone, I see things and I see signs and I'm very aware I'm in nature. I see a bird taking off, and then I translate this to the question that I was holding, or to
Mm.
the topic that was in my heart. I would say I hold in my heart. And then when I'm aware of what's happening around me or within me, I can get so many answers and pieces to a puzzle. And this is something that I was even asked, like, how could you do like a retreat with 3 kids at home? And I'm like, I mean, that's a challenge of a mother. And still it's possible, and it's so valuable, because then once we are centered again and we know what we want to do, it's so much easier to move forward, and to move forward um, with this inner knowing that we can gain when we move forward. It's so much easier to explain to people, because when we have inspired action, it's very often not easy to explain. So we can just say, I cannot tell you the whole story, but I know I will do this. And then we are already settled in our own feelings, in our, yeah, when the knowing is there, it's so easy to act, and it's so easy to act with intention.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're in doubt or in self-doubt or in pain, sometimes it's deep or not deep, but it's a trauma that comes up, and then it's creating space for ourselves to be aware of it, and then to see if we want to have support and help or not.
Yeah.
Or if we want support and then time to integrate. I mean, there's so many different subtle differences between each of our paths, and especially in each of our stories, and like lifelines,
Yeah.
because
I
every like, even if you're siblings, they experience the same situation totally different.
Yes, it's true.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I want everyone to hear what you're saying, because I was really feeling, and I wanted to give you space to share what you felt you needed to say. And I think so many of us, or we get into this busy, busy, busy lifestyle, don't need to striving for success or feeling guilty about taking time for ourselves, and so then we never, we never meet ourselves, and we never deal with the deep underlying stuff, and we're trying to find the answers and trying to find the solutions, and looking, so like someone's like we're paddling upstream. I always sometimes see it as we're in these boats, and we're paddling against the tide upstream, and we're striving and striving to get there. And actually, all you really need to do is pause and stop and let the tide almost like take this the stream carry you, and rather than sort of like striving and paddling really hard. And I think the strength and the courage comes, when we're in those moments of knowing something, you want something to change but not knowing how to do it, is to take that pause, is to take that time, is and if it's for some of us it is, I had to take a few months out last year. Sometimes it is taking a few months out. Sometimes it's, like you said, creating that time for meditation in your day, creating that time for journaling, going out in nature. And we can feel, especially women, sometimes guilty about doing those types of things. very guilty, but actually in doing that's when actually you feel much more connected with yourself. The ideas and the inspiration come, you have that energy, and I really want people to hear from this, that actually that taking that pause, whatever way it is for you, is is a brave and a courageous step, but that can lead to something much more meaningful and much more beautiful, and a change, and a really positive change.
Yeah, yeah. And when you just said it, it like it takes us to this change, and at the same time, the picture that I just got was um, the moment that we went through this and we have this knowing again, and we know where we're going. Suddenly we stand strong. It's like then we stand and we are really there. We are present with the moment, and then we are aware of where we are at. And I feel that that's the moment when we can we have a bigger potential to do the choices that really serve us and the ones around us, because we're not choosing out of lack and not choosing
Mm.
out of hustle, but we choose out of a place of inner strength, and like we might still be a little bit afraid, but we do it anyway because we feel that's the leap we need to take, or that's the step that the conversation we want to have.
Yeah.
And it's not that we should have it, but we feel that we want to have it because it moves us forward, and it shifts the relationship with someone else, so that it's a win-win again, or that maybe it's a conversation to let someone go. I mean, this is probably also part, like the moment that we
Yes.
step on our path, we shake the whole ecosystem that we're in, because
Yeah.
we are not, like, even for our kids, like when I do my thing, they miss me, it's uncomfortable. It's like mom's doing her thing, or for our partners, because the like here my friends, they always say it's like hotel mama. It's like hotel mom. Yeah,
Mm.
suddenly it's not, maybe it's a youth hostel now. So they have to
Yes.
do more. So
Yeah.
it's us stepping up. It takes others also out of their comfort zone, and I feel this is part of what you said, with maybe we feel guilty,
Yeah.
or it's um we're not used to it.
We're not
And
used to putting
taking this,
ourselves first, are we?
yes, putting ourselves first, setting boundaries, and healthy boundaries. I mean, it's not about um like throwing someone away, or like,
I know what you
yeah,
mean.
it can be
Yeah.
very soft and subtle, and at the same time it's this standing strong and connecting with our purpose, connecting with our inner guidance or higher guidance. However, it's different for everyone. For some
Mm.
it's a knowing, for some it's a picture they get. So it's as you know, it's like there are so many different ways that we can perceive it, and then actually taking this step, and then when we go out there, we have this inner stability to then shake the world,
Yes.
because we are stable.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and this is something I got like even last weekend, I got the feedback that the moment that I'm in the room, it already changes.
Yeah.
I don't even have to say something. I'm there and I'm present, and something in the energy of the room shifts. And
Yeah.
I feel this is the first step for us to, not the first, but I feel this is another part of, it's precious to be aware of. It's that we are shifting our being when we have these pauses, and it's not necessarily that we have to shift everything that we're doing, because sometimes we feel like, oh, now I understand my purpose and now I have to do all the time. It's also embodying it and being who we are, and then things can come to us, and we meet people, and we meet the right people, and we set
Yeah.
an intention, for example, before an interview, that we will speak the right words, and then it's about being and doing. And I feel the being part, the embodiment of who we are, is um, it's like expanding in these pauses.
Yes. Oh, I love that we
Yeah,
expand in the it's oh I completely agree with it.
it's even the
I
body
felt
is
that. Yes.
healing. The body is healing when we sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the pause. Or in
Yeah.
winter, the seeds, they're in the soil and they start
Yeah.
growing, and we don't see something
Yeah.
for ages. And then
Oh,
suddenly there's a little
there
sapling.
you are.
Yeah.
What, Antonia,
And
what would you say to someone just to encourage someone who is at that point where they feel they need this pause, or they feel like, but they feel like that something else needs to grow out of them, but they're struggling right now, to what are some words of advice or words of encouragement, or you feel just led to share with someone who may be feeling like, okay, how do I, what do I do next, how do I navigate or go into this pause, or what words do you have that you feel they might need to hear listening to this?
mm, I would suggest to start journaling
Mm-hmm.
with some questions like, because journaling doesn't have to be all affirmations. It can be really like, what are the moments in my day that really hit me, or where I really feel hurt, or because when we write, we can get it out of our system
Yeah.
and we can reread it, and it's a first way of releasing. And then it's like through the questions that we ask ourselves when we write, we can step into different fields. Like we could step, if I would know how to create a pause, what would I do? And then start writing. And at the same time, I would suggest to observe yourself
Mm-hmm.
for the moments where you feel connected, for the moments where you feel the joy, for the moments where you feel inspired, because sometimes we're not aware of these moments. So the moment that we are aware of, for example, when I'm very inspired when with my best friend when we're in a cafe and we can sit there for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that if I plan that in, that these 5 hours will be just gold for both of us. um, and for others, or like last week, it was being alone and just witnessing my thoughts, what I see, how I turn, even the path that I choose through the ruins of this fortress, to observe ourselves. And then when we witness these moments where we feel connected, or where we or remember moments that we felt connected or that we were inspired, and then creating more of those moments, or the space for example, inspiration is something we cannot force.
No.
It's something we can create space for, that it can
Yeah.
happen.
Yes.
And I feel it's a path, a personal path, to discover what is your way of creating this space, and this
Yeah.
is very individual.
Yeah. It is.
So it's I feel it starts with observing yourself and maybe journaling, because
Yeah.
with journaling we can also like, what I'm afraid of, or like just get it out there first, and then maybe um, what served me and a lot of my clients in the past was to find a group of people who are supportive and who are not in my inner circle,
Yes. Yes.
because for them it's, they just support me. For them it's not uncomfortable if I change.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, do it. And then if I say, yeah, but my kids, and then they will help me find solutions. And this can be a mastermind, this can be just a group of friends where you feel
You
you
feel
can even
safe.
set it up. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be a paid program.
No.
It's like we can meet. I have friends we meet since 2 years every Thursday. And we have a conversation, and then sometimes we meditate, and in between we support each other. And it has grown very close and very special.
Yeah. I
And
hear that. Yeah.
they are not in our, like, they are not in my everyday life,
No. And
which also
sometimes you
helps.
need those people that aren't in your everyday life. And I've done the same this past year. I've really begun to surround myself with people that aren't in my, that aren't in, let's, like you said, in my everyday life, but believe in me, that support my mission, that support what I do, and having those people around you encourages you when you're having that moment of self-doubt, when you're having that moment of, should I make this change, should I do this, when they're there because they believe in you and they believe in what you're about. They're there to lift you and support you. You don't want to be surrounded by people who are afraid of your change and are afraid of your growth. You want
Yeah.
people who want the same for you as well.
Yeah.
And so, what were you going to
No,
say?
and beside the people, sometimes it's so interesting. My best friend sometimes, like I learned so many techniques, and I whatever, like there's so much knowledge and so much rituals and whatever what we can do,
Mm,
and sometimes we simply forget it. So one of my, like when emotions really come, I feel it's very precious to find one or two tools that we use more often, that we feel aligned with,
mm-hmm.
that we can even think of when we are in this emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if it's too complicated, we will think of it like a week later. It's like, oh, I could have done that, but it wouldn't help us in this moment.
Yeah,
So, whatever it is, tapping or a meditation or a healing technique, or what works for me very nicely is going into the garden, taking my
yeah,
shoes off, connecting with the earth, and just breathing everything into the earth
yeah,
and reconnecting. And even on the physical level, it shifts the body, but also on the energetic level, it shifts so much.
yeah.
Um, and sometimes even I forget even that. And then I'm on the phone with my friend, and she's like, "When was the last time that you like grounded yourself?" And I'm like, I don't know." And she's like, "Call me back in 10."
I love that. Yes.
And
Sometimes it
I'm,
just takes,
yes,
yeah,
thank you. And
yes,
sometimes I do it with her,
yeah,
because when we are in this daily hamster wheel, which we are all in often, I think,
yeah,
um, these are like little things. It takes, and there are even other methods that take
yeah.
just 30
Yeah,
seconds.
it can.
Or
I'm
I
with
have
you on
one
that.
where it's just like just doing like this, even if I don't know how, I
Mm,
know that I will whatever find a way or whatever, and it
yeah,
works, the meridians and everything. It's very simple. No one's like, I can do it on the bus or
yeah.
even somewhere on stage. And to find these things that resonate with you, I think this is very, very precious, because this is the little pauses. This is the little, even if it's a timer, like one of the things that I'm studying is the gene keys,
Hmm.
and which is like human design, but
Okay.
to me it's more multidimensional. It's like all individual journeys. It's not readings. And there is one practice which is setting a timer every 3 hours, and then whenever the timer goes off, pause for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes and be aware of what's happening, and then continuing your day. And
Perfect.
people who do this for a week or longer, they feel
Yes.
massive shifts, because
Yes.
suddenly it's like, where am I? What's happening? It's like, maybe
Yeah.
not in the middle of a business meeting, but even when I go out with dinner with my friends, I can step out of the restaurant for 3 minutes and
Yes.
just
And
take a moment. So
anybody can
there's
do
so
that,
many
can't
different
they?
words.
Yes.
Yes, there's so many
Anyone can
different.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but whatever way it is, find those pauses, like whether it is 5 minutes out, when you're having a stressful time, grounding yourself, going outside, standing outside. I do that a lot. I've created pauses in my day every day. I meditate every morning, and
Yeah.
occasionally I miss it, but it's part of my life now. Taking time out from, I've had to take time out from work sometimes. Taking time out from, being self-employed, whether you're employed or self-employed. Taking that time out is and when you feel that you need it, remember to do that. And I think sometimes we push, and we go too far without the pause. That's when the rock bottom comes in. That's where you get to that point where you're so exhausted that you then can't do anything. So I feel it's almost about um, taking the pause before it's too late as
Yes.
well. And if you're integrating those pauses into your daily life, then the massive big pauses may feel less necessary because you're taking them regularly. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's really worth planning in.
Yes.
For example, I was on a conference last week, and before this conference started, I was there for 2 days by myself. I
Yes.
planned it in. So like my husband was here with the kids and everything, and I was gone a little longer.
Yeah.
And so I could combine being with the group and having time by myself.
Yeah.
This is sometimes, especially when we have family, it's something that we need, like if it's a day off, it's something that we need to put in the calendar.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it won't happen
Yeah.
because then, and if I
Yeah.
say, but I'm not there that day, then they need to organize themselves.
Yeah.
Or
And
I organize something for them when they're smaller,
yeah.
younger, the kids. But this is something um, which I started some years ago to really also sometimes schedule just a weekend with myself
Yeah.
and being away, because when I'm here, I'm here. Like I can be in my office
Yes. And
and
that's what I'm
still I'm
hearing.
available.
Yeah.
And
When you're home and you're there because you've given yourself and you've not and I really want people to hear this. You've given yourself, you know, that your that time to yourself and you've not felt guilty about it. You've not it's actually because when you've given yourself that time, when you're back, actually you're so much more available, you're more refreshed,
yes,
you've got an energy, you feel better. And I am sure that that inspires your children, that inspires your husband, and you, they they will see the benefit of you not being there. Because if you don't, and I know we need to get an end, we need to come to the end of this interview because I know we could talk for hours. But
no,
if you don't take that time and you feel like you're there all the time, you're
yeah,
not present with them and you're not enjoying your time with them. You're just
yes,
feeling frustrated. You're not sure why you're feeling frustrated. You're just feeling frustrated because you're just on that do and but you've got no space for anything else.
yeah,
It's exhausting. Just
yeah,
keeping going.
yeah. And sometimes
Um,
it's as simple as going for a walk
yeah,
and really being outside of the premises.
yeah, makes a
And I mean,
massive
I
difference.
work from home. My kids come home at lunchtime, and if there's a sign on my office door, I'm not available. So
Yeah,
then they have to come up with something, and I will prepare their food and everything.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
also creating these spaces within our daily family life,
yeah, yeah,
and then finding these routines and feeling into what really nourishes you.
yeah.
So time by the water, or like even the elements, like is it the water, or is it a tree, or is it your best friend
Yes,
speaking
and
about your passion, or
yeah,
is it sharing in an interview about what you're passionate about? This
yeah,
is something what I always feel very refreshing and nourishing, is that when I speak about what I do or what I love, there's a fresh energy.
that is so
Yeah,
true.
so sometimes it's things that you wouldn't expect before. It's like, yeah, but it's work. Yeah, but no, not but,
Yeah.
and it's energizing myself because it's what I love
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
And to recognize these moments and then to recreate them in new versions,
yeah,
it's something very powerful and something very individual. So
yeah,
it works differently for every person.
yeah. Antonia, this has been like, oh, I know we could talk for hours, and I'm sure people have taken so much from listening to your wisdom, to sharing, you know, parts of your story. Antonia, I have one final question, and I tend to
Yes.
ask this at the end of them, and it is so I want you to imagine you're sort of like coming to the end of your life, and I would love to know, Antonia, what have you done? How have you shaken the world?
Mm.
How is Antonia? I can never say whether to say shook or shaken, so I use both.
Take a German. No. um, I have shaken the world by supporting or guiding people to reconnect with their intuition, inner wisdom, and source,
Mm,
so that they can bring their goal to the world and co-create and truly collaborate in magical ways. That's my it's my vision for the future, and that it happened, and we found a lot of new ways to reconnect with the circle of life, reconnect
mm,
with nature, reconnect with heart to heart, so that it's like I have shaken the world also by co-creating a new economy, like a new way of how we do things and how we interact, and how energy patterns and spirituality has now a home in the business world.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
Yes, I feel that and I see that too. And I can see you being a massive guiding light
Yeah, because
in
the
bringing
moment
that
that we
into this
integrate
world.
this,
Yes.
the moment that we are officially
Mm,
bringing our intuition into our work,
yes.
also on the larger scale,
Yeah.
we have the divine guidance, and then the magic can happen everywhere.
Yeah.
And and yeah, and I
Beautiful.
was part of that.
Oh, I know. I know you're part of that.
I am
You're
already part of
already
that.
part of it, but I can see it growing bigger and bigger. Antonia, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your energy with us today, and your beautiful words and your beautiful energy. And I hope the
Thank you for
listeners got
having me. Thank you
you're
for
so
this
welcome.
beautiful conversation, and all the best for She Shakes the World.
Thank you.